I've kept this story to myself for years, partly because I still don't know how to explain it, and partly because I've been afraid that by telling it, I'd somehow invite it back into my life. But every time I pass by my old high school or hear the echo of kids' laughter spilling out of brick hallways, I think about it all over again. So maybe telling it is the only way to finally get it out of my system. I went to a small-town high school that barely had over 600 students. The building wasn't particularly old, maybe built in the late 70s, but it had this heavy atmosphere even on the sunniest days. I never thought much of it because, well, it was school. Everyone hated being there. Of course, the place felt heavy. My story begins during my junior year. I had signed up for an after-school study session because I was falling behind in algebra, and my teacher, Mr. Carter, was one of those guys who actually cared if you were struggling. He'd stay late if you needed him to. The study sessions were usually small, just a handful of us, and we'd use one of the classrooms on the second floor of the older wing. That wing wasn't used much anymore because most of the classes had been relocated to the newer extension on the opposite side of the building. This particular day was in late November, just before Thanksgiving break. The sun dipped fast that time of year, and by the time the study group wrapped up around 5, the hallways were already washed in that gray, shadowy light that makes fluorescent bulbs flicker harsher than usual. I packed my things slowly, waiting for my mom to text that she was outside. Mr. Carter had to leave early that day, and so did the other kids, leaving me alone in the classroom. He trusted me enough to lock up. I was supposed to drop the keys off at the front office on my way out. When I stepped into the hallway, it struck me how silent the building was. Normally, you'd hear the janitors moving around, vacuum cleaners humming, or at least the faint clang of someone closing their locker. But this time there was nothing. Just silence stretching through the hall like a vacuum. The office was on the first floor, but when I got to the stairwell, something caught my attention. Down the opposite end of the hall, past the row of lockers, past the trophy case, all the way at the very end, I saw a faint glow. It was the kind of orange, flickering light you only get from a lamp or maybe a candle. The strange thing was, I knew that hallway ended in room 217. Room 217 hadn't been used for years. Everyone knew it. The door was always locked. The glass in the little window on it was so cloudy with dust you couldn't see inside anymore. It was the kind of forgotten classroom that teachers stored old supplies in, but never actually stepped foot into. And yet, there was definitely light seeping through the cracks around the door. At first, I thought maybe one of the janitors had decided to set up in there. But the closer I walked, the more I realized how wrong that seemed. The building was silent. No cleaning carts. No keys jangling. Just that faint flicker. I don't know why I went toward it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe that stupid instinct you get when you tell yourself it's nothing. It has to be nothing. But each step down the hall made my skin crawl a little more. When I finally reached room 217, I realized something else. The air was warmer here. Thick. Almost damp. Like walking into a greenhouse. The door was cracked slightly open, just enough to let that light spill out. I nudged it with my foot. It creaked open without resistance. Inside, I expected dust, boxes, stacked up chairs. Instead, the room looked lived in. The desks were arranged in neat rows, but every surface was clean. The chalkboard at the front of the room wasn't coated in chalk dust. It actually had writing on it. Words scrawled in thick white strokes, though I couldn't make out what they said from the doorway. And the light? It came from a single lamp on the teacher's desk. An old-fashioned one with a brass base and green glass shade. The kind you'd expect to see in a library from 100 years ago, not in some neglected classroom. I stepped inside. The smell hit me immediately. Not like chemicals or cleaning supplies. It was something earthier. Damp wood, mildew maybe. But underneath that was something sour, almost metallic. Like rust. I should have left right then. Dropped the keys off, waited for my mom, and never looked back. But I didn't because there was someone in the room. At first I didn't notice. I thought maybe I was imagining it. The way your eyes play tricks in weird lighting. But when I blinked, my stomach dropped. There, in the far corner, sat a student at one of the desks. Their head was down, arms folded like they'd fallen asleep in class. The hair was long and black, spilling across the desk. I thought maybe it was one of the seniors pulling a prank, sneaking into nap or something. Hello? I called out. No answer. I took a step closer. Hey, you're not supposed to be in here, I think. Still no answer. That's when the person moved, or rather their shoulders twitched. Not like they were waking up. More like a spasm. The sound that followed will never leave me. A wet, choking gasp. Like someone trying to breathe through water. I froze. My whole body wanted to bolt, but my legs locked. I watched as the figure slowly lifted their head. The hair shifted away just enough to reveal pale skin. A face, but not normal. The eyes were sunken, blackened underneath, the skin stretched thin like wax. The lips parted and another wet gasp echoed through the room, and then it smiled. Not wide, not exaggerated, just a small, awful curl of the lips that somehow felt worse than anything else. I stumbled back. My heel caught on the threshold and I nearly tripped over myself trying to get out. The second I was in the hallway, I slammed the door shut, except it didn't slam. It didn't even close. Because the second my hand touched the knob, the door gave way and swung open on its own. The classroom was empty. No light, no lamp, no desks in neat rows. Just dust, cobwebs. Stacked chairs like it had always been. My breath hitched so hard I almost threw up. I dropped the keys. I didn't care. I ran down the stairwell so fast my legs nearly gave out. By the time I got outside, my mom was already waiting, scrolling on her phone like nothing in the world was wrong. I never told her. I never told anyone. But here's the part that keeps me awake even now. Years later, 2 weeks after that night, I overheard two teachers talking in the teacher's lounge while I was waiting to ask about homework. They didn't notice me at the door. They were talking about room 217. One of them, a newer teacher, asked why it was sealed up and unused. The other one, a veteran who'd been there for decades, said quietly, that was where it happened. Back in '94, a student locked herself inside during detention. By the time they found her, she had suffocated. Some kind of medical thing. But people kept saying they heard her choking. Even after, I felt my blood turn to ice because when I stood in that room, what I heard wasn't the air conditioner. It wasn't the pipes, it was her. And I think she smiled because she knew I could hear her. I never liked studying in the library, even before all of this happened. Some people thrive in that atmosphere. Rows of dusty books, quiet corners, the faint buzz of old fluorescent lights, but for me, silence has always felt heavier than noise. But during my second year of college, the library became my second home whether I liked it or not. I was buried in coursework, juggling a part-time job, and my dorm was too noisy for anything productive. So the library was my last resort. The building itself was ancient, older than most of the campus. 3 floors, tall arched windows, cracked wooden shelves that smelled faintly of mold. The top floor was always deserted after 9 p.m., which made it the perfect place to focus. Or at least it should have been, the night it happened. I had been there since around 7. By 11:30, the only sound left was the scratch of my pen on paper and the occasional groan of the building settling. The lights flickered sometimes, but I'd grown used to that. I had my notes spread across the table when I heard it. A thump above me. Not like the HVAC or pipes. This was heavy, deliberate. I froze, my pen hovering mid-word. Another thump followed, this one directly overhead. Then the faintest drag, like something or someone was crawling across the tiles above the ceiling. My first thought was that maybe an animal had gotten in. A raccoon, a stray cat. But the sound was too heavy, too slow. I leaned back in my chair and stared up. The ceiling tiles were the flimsy, thin kind you could push aside with one hand. A few of them were stained with water damage, some sagging slightly, but nothing moved. I told myself to ignore it. It was late. I was tired, and if I let myself get spooked, I'd never finish my assignment. So I bent over my notes again. That's when I heard breathing. Faint, shallow. But it wasn't coming from above anymore. It was coming from the row of bookshelves directly behind me. I whipped around, my chair screeching against the floor. Nobody. Just endless shelves of textbooks and reference guides, their spines glowing dull under the fluorescent bulbs. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the sound was from the ventilation. Then, the tile above me shifted. Not much. Just a slight dip like weight pressing down on it. Dust sifted from the edge and spiraled slowly onto my notes. I shoved my things into my backpack with shaking hands. Forget the assignment. I needed to get out. I stood up so fast my chair toppled over. The sound of it crashing echoed too loud in the empty library. And in that silence that followed, I heard something that nearly made me collapse right there. A low chuckle, not from far away, from above me. I bolted. I didn't care about being quiet anymore. I sprinted down the aisle, my footsteps thundering against the floor. The stairwell was at the far end of the 3rd floor, and every step I took felt like something was following just above, crawling fast across the ceiling tiles. When I shoved through the stairwell door, the echo of the tiles shifting followed me. I didn't stop running until I burst through the main doors of the library and into the cold night air. I stood there, chest heaving, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. But then I looked up. Through the tall, arched window of the 3rd floor, one of the ceiling tiles was missing, and behind the empty space, I saw him, a pale face grinning too wide. Eyes locked directly on mine. He didn't move. Just watched. I ran all the way back to my dorm and didn't sleep a second that night. The next day I avoided the library altogether. But curiosity gnawed at me. By the 2nd day I couldn't help myself. I went back in broad daylight, telling myself I had to confirm what I saw. The 3rd floor looked normal. No missing tiles. No dust on the tables. Everything neat, like nothing had ever happened. But when I sat down trying to steady my nerves, I noticed something etched faintly into the desk in front of me. Not carved with a knife, scratched roughly with fingernails maybe. 3 words, "Don't look up." I went to high school in a small town where nothing ever really happened. We had football games, bonfires, drama club productions, safe, predictable routines. That's why when the first lockdown drill happened, none of us took it seriously. It was sophomore year. The intercom crackled during 2nd period and the principal's voice came on. "This is a lockdown. Teachers, lock your doors immediately. Students, move away from windows and remain silent." We thought it was a joke. Some kids laughed, others groaned. My friend Jessica whispered that it was probably just another boring drill. But when our teacher, Mr. Daniels, snapped the blinds shut with trembling hands and killed the lights, I noticed the way his face had gone pale. "This isn't a drill," he whispered. That's when the first bang echoed down the hall. Everyone froze. It wasn't a gunshot, more like the locker slamming, but hard, over and over. We crouched beneath our desks as instructed, the silence so thick I could hear Jessica's shallow breathing beside me. Mr. Daniels locked the door, then crouched by the wall, his eyes darting toward the hallway. Minutes crawled by. The banging stopped, but then came another sound. Slow footsteps echoing against the tile. Too slow, too deliberate, whoever it was, wasn't in a hurry. The footsteps drew closer until they stopped right outside our classroom. The doorknob rattled. Every muscle in my body went rigid. Mr. Daniels pressed his finger to his lips, warning us not to make a sound. Then a voice, a low, drawn-out whisper, "I can hear you." Jessica's hand clamped onto my wrist so tightly her nails dug into my skin. The voice dragged the words out, taunting, "I know you're in there." The knob twisted harder, violently this time, the metal clanging. Mr. Daniels pressed his weight against the door, holding it shut. Finally, after what felt like forever, the rattling stopped. The footsteps moved away. We sat in silence for nearly half an hour, waiting for the all clear. When the intercom finally announced, "Lockdown over, return to normal activity," the tension broke all at once. Some kids cried, others whispered nervously. The strange thing was, no one ever explained what happened. No shooter, no intruder. The teachers gave vague answers, brushing it off as precaution. But the look on Mr. Daniels' face told me he didn't believe that. The 2nd time it happened was worse. 3 months later, same procedure. Intercom, blinds, doors locked. But this time the sound wasn't footsteps, it was scratching from inside the walls. We heard it faintly at first, like nails dragging slowly through drywall. Then it grew louder, circling the classroom, moving from one corner to another. Jessica mouthed, "What the hell?" But I couldn't respond. At one point, the scratching was directly behind me. I pressed my back against the wall and I swear I felt it vibrate beneath me. No one dared speak. And then came the whisper. The exact same one as before. "I can hear you." Only this time it was inside the classroom, somewhere above us. A muffled thump shook the ceiling tile and a cloud of dust drifted down. A girl in the back stifled a scream. Mr. Daniels gestured frantically for silence, his face drenched in sweat. The whisper came again, closer, almost playful. "I know you're in there. That lockdown lasted over an hour. When it ended, half of us were in tears. A counselor came to talk to us afterward, telling us it was all psychological stress and collective hysteria. But I knew what I'd heard. We all did. By the time the third lockdown happened senior year, we didn't laugh anymore. We didn't roll our eyes. We just prayed. It was in the middle of lunch period. The intercom blared, but before the principal could even finish the announcement, screams erupted from the far end of the cafeteria. I turned in time to see a boy collapse on the floor, clawing at his throat like he couldn't breathe. His face turned red, then purple. His friends tried to help, but it was like invisible hands were choking him. And then, just as suddenly, he was released. He gasped for air, trembling, sobbing, alive. That's when the lights cut out. The cafeteria plunged into darkness. Through the pitch black, that voice slithered out again. "I can hear you." It sounded like it came from everywhere at once. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. Panic erupted. Students screamed, chairs toppled, trays crashed. But no matter how loud the chaos got, the whisper cut through it. "I know you're in there." Then came the worst sound of all. Laughter. Low. Cruel. Not human. I don't remember much after that. Just running. Just chaos. The police came. The school closed for weeks. The news reported it as mass hysteria. They never mentioned the boy who nearly died or the voice we all heard. I graduated that year, but the lockdowns never left me. Even now, years later, in quiet moments, I still hear it. Sometimes at night, when the house is silent, I swear I hear scratching in the walls. And sometimes, when I'm lying in bed on the edge of sleep, I hear that same whisper in my ear, "I can hear you."